I'm calling to order the Woburn School Committee meeting for September 29th, 2021. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. I want to let everybody know that this meeting will be recorded and also broadcast live. Mr. Superintendent, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Chisholm.
Here.
Ms. Cormier.
Present.
Mr. Lipset.
Present.
Mr. Kissel.
Here.
Mr. Morenin.
Present.
Dr. Wells.
Here.
Ms. Crowley.
Present. All right, moving on to the first agenda item is approval of minutes for 9/14/21. Any action? Motion to approve. A motion to approve. Do I have a second? Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. That motion passes 7-0. Moving on to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the school committee? Please approach the desk. I'm not seeing any. All right. Moving on, Counselor Mike Concannon. Okay. Counselor at Large Mike Concannon cannot make it tonight. I put him on the agenda. I just want to remind the members that sometimes he comes and in order to create some city government collaboration. He is at his daughter's volleyball game, but he wishes everybody congratulations on a smooth opening of school. So thank you, Counselor Mike Concannon. Moving on to reports and presentation of superintendent and staff. We have Athletic Director Jim Duran. Mr. Superintendent, would you like to introduce him?
Sure. Mr. Duran, at this time, I think it's important for the committee to hear what's happening outside of the classroom as well and get an update on fall athletics that have been ongoing actually prior to the school beginning. So Mr. Duran can update on that and a few sort of interesting updates that you'll share.
Yeah, things are going good. It's good to have everybody back, and the masks are out. And, the kids are doing a great job with that. And, all the seasons are up and running. Field hockey, soccer, football, volleyball. Volleyball had a huge win against Winchester. I believe the record now is 9-1, 9-2. So we don't count that one. So 9-2. So golf and swimming. Swimming was 2-0. I think it was the first time in a long time that they went off on the right foot. And, but things have been good. We're really, I think the kids are excited to be back. We've had some good crowds with football and then volleyball the other day against Winchester. Winchester last year, they hadn't lost. They didn't. I don't believe they lost a set. Never mind a game. So it was a huge win for us. I think it was the first time that we beat Winchester, and they were one of the strongest programs in the state. So it was good for our girls, and they did a terrific job. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Matt told me to be quick and don't bring out the PowerPoint.
I'd love
to see that PowerPoint. No, you told me not to bring it up.
I'll bring it up.
Yeah.
I'll just start with a question, even though, because I just wanted to address concussion protocols.
Mm-hmm.
If we wouldn't mind just taking a minute to, because I know there was an injury at the Voc school. Yeah, so I was just can you just reassure the public as to what exactly we do?
Yeah, our protocol goes, we have a trainer usually is at almost every single game. I'm not sure there is a time that she's not there. But the concussion protocol is when somebody comes down with a concussion on the field or even off the field, it's reported to the nurse. And with that protocol, they are, until they're cleared to come back from the nurse, then when they come back to athletics, they would have a 5-day period where they have to work their way back in. So it's very, it's really something that we've worked on now. It's kind of old hat compared to, I would say, 6 years ago when no one really knew the protocol. But now it's school-wide. We run the same protocol that we would run if a student got hurt in school. So it's pretty difficult. So like I said, they come back, they take a couple days where they work their way back in, then they go back to practice halfway, and then, you know, they lead up to that 5th day where they can go back into full contact.
Okay, thank you. And now I'll turn it over to the committee. Mrs. Chisholm?
Attendees at these events, wear masks, being spaced out.
There's no masks outside.
Okay.
Indoors, all masks.
Right.
Yep. Everybody's been great with that. I know it's, there's times where people are rushing and they come running in, but we have masks at the table.
Okay.
When they go into the gym, but we haven't had a problem in 2 years now with the masks.
Well, at least they get to see the kids, so that's
Correct.
what they really want to be able to
Yep.
do. And I was asked by somebody 100 years ago, we used to have passes for over 65.
We still have them.
Okay.
Yep. So they could call high school, I can leave them at the front desk.
Okay.
If you want to get me names, I can, you know, we can mail them to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
So,
reach out to you.
and usually if they go to the gate
Yeah.
and they just say they're a senior citizen, sometimes at the gate they'll have the senior citizen passes
Oh, okay.
that they can grab one at the gate.
Awesome. All right, thank you.
Mrs. Chisholm? Dr. Wells?
Yeah, thanks. So I noticed this summer they had the volleyball summer camp and I think basketball summer camps, you know, and great to see the volleyball team doing really well. You know, one sport that kind of struck me this fall so far is the golf team, because back in the day, Woburn was known for its golf thing and team, and, you know, we had a long history of having a strong golf team. Do you kind of understand why it's, you know, not doing as well lately, or?
Well, the kids are not putting the time in.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago, I mean, it's probably been almost, I don't know, I don't want to say that they just haven't been the powerhouse that they've been.
Yeah.
But you used to have a group of kids that would go over there, 15 kids in the junior numbers, and they could play all day long. Kids just don't do that.
Mm.
You know, they're home playing computer games and Xbox, and they just don't, no one does it anymore. I mean, I think it was, I don't know what it is now, but I think at the time it was probably, I think it was $600, and it was for the whole summer. The kids would sit there and they would play. They would go there, and then they'd walk over to Papa Gino's and get their slices and come back. It used to drive some of the golfers crazy because it was, they used to complain it was kids' day, right? So, but those teams were so successful because the kids that were involved played all the time.
So you put it more on the students. It's really the impetus for how good they are, as opposed to like a coach creating the attitude, you know.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, you're only as good as what you have.
Yeah.
You know, if the kids are not working at it,
Yeah.
there's still that opportunity for them to be there.
Mhm.
I don't believe it was the coach, it was actually probably more of the people that were involved
Yeah.
over at, from Tara Jacobs to
Yeah.
Mr. Bachhaus and now
Okay.
Phil Racy, Peter Racy
Yeah.
is really, he's done a good job too. They're all helpful, it's just,
Yeah.
you can't get everybody to go and do it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions? Yes, Ms. Mulrennan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Mr. Duran. How you doing?
Good, man.
Here we are, almost October 1. Obviously, the fall sports are happening, moving into winter. MIAA, school superintendents, any mass changes, updates you're aware of yet coming forward for the winter sports, you think?
I think we'll go by the state and what they, I don't think there's any plans of anything, get rid of any masks, especially indoors.
Okay.
Right at this time, so I think they'll follow what the school is doing and what the state does, and see how we move forward with vaccinations and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Just putting it out there, we've got one season kind of normal, sort of, so
Yeah.
let's move on to the next season.
I think the kids are just thrilled that they can play and their friends can come and watch them play and the parents can come and watch them play. I think that's the biggest thing for them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Anything else? Oh, yes, Dr. Wells.
How are we doing for numbers? You know,
Our numbers are really good.
Yeah.
We're down a little bit in field hockey. We didn't have a freshman team this year, but both soccers, we've had freshman teams. You know, of course, volleyball, we have plenty of numbers. Cross country, both have huge numbers. Football, great numbers, which is a surprise. And everybody seems like in the league is scraping to get freshman teams together in football. We don't. So we've been trying to, you know, maneuver around that too. So going out and trying to get some non-league games, because I think there's only 1 or 2 teams that have freshmen in the league.
And I know the boys swimming is a winter activity, I believe.
It's a winter.
Yeah, any thought on that this year yet? Have you heard anything?
Well, we don't, right now, we don't have the interest.
Right.
I think it comes and goes. There is a huge interest in boys volleyball, which is a spring sport.
Yeah.
That would probably be our next sport. I know there's a few teams in our league that have volleyball, boys volleyball. You know, I just don't want to start another sport that takes away from one of the sports that we have, and then we're closing that sport down to have another one. So I think if there's interest, we'll look at it, but there is some interest.
Could we do it? I can't remember the breakdown because we're supposed to have equal number of boys.
Yeah, we're one.
So we could do it and it wouldn't.
One sport on the girls' side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mr. Kissel, you had a question?
Yeah, a couple of things. Back to volleyball. I know I probably asked this last year as well. The volleyball originally you came in and you spoke and said, you know, there's a demographic at the high school that, you know, would probably fit into that sport. Are you finding that demographic we look at? I know a lot of the Brazilian kids up there and so on. Is that of interest to them, or are they just not in the teams? Or
I'm not sure. It's the interest is because of you know, the race or Brazilian population. I just think it's something that is coming up. It's something that some of the teams around the league are starting to get it. So now it's easier to play teams. You know, it's like the girls' golf. We used to try to start the girls' golf team. The teams were down the Cape, so we could never get there, right? So volleyball would be a good sport to start, because if we do get a couple more teams in the league, we would have a league to play a full league schedule.
I guess, I don't know if that was my question, I guess, was the purpose of having the volleyball, one of it was to potentially pull some of the kids in. Are you finding any of that demographic being pulled into that sport? I don't know if you answered that.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I mean, when we've had signups, I don't think I really look at that. I just think that it's whoever's interested.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you came in front of us many years ago, there's a population that may want to play that sport.
Yeah,
I just didn't know if
I
you
just
felt
think I think it's just an interest at the high school.
Okay, all right, that's good.
Yeah.
And field rentals, how's that going? I mean, are we
This year,
same groups coming
this
in?
year is a little bit slower than the last couple of years. This year we have a couple different groups in the fall. You know, I don't know if we're going to stay with those groups or we're going to go with a different group. There was one group that was in before that used to take 5 days a week. And now we're into 2 groups that take 2 hours here and 2 hours there. I think there's groups out there that would die to be at our place and take 5 days a week, which, you know, and they're a good group. So, you know, I think the groups that we have are pretty good, but I think we have to restructure to make sure that they're going to keep coming and get bigger. And, you know, we're not in the business of renting fields, but, you know, I think it helps a lot. I mean, we just paid for a field and
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
a
say.
track that, you know, we didn't have to come up with money out of our own pockets.
Yeah.
There has been a little bit of discussion. I don't know if I have, you know, I talked to Matt on about like the light rental, right? So we have lights in the backfield. We rent those lights. We don't pay for it. The group that's in there is paying for it. So let's just say it's $2,500 a month. We're giving that $2,500 to a rent company. If we were to put our lights up, we could pay the $2,500, but we would have lights in 10 years or 12 years.
Yeah.
Instead, we're just throwing that money out the window. I mean, that's what I think, but that's, a little man in the total ball. But, I think if we did have the money in the field account and we wanted to move in that direction, it might be something we really need to look at. And, because the lights up there now are not great, as in
Talking the backfield,
the
right?
backfield. The people that live in the backfield, I think it's mostly renters and so on and so forth, and it backs up to Spinizzola, I think not Spinizzola, but Scribner down the back there. So, that's construction, they're not there at night, so, they'd probably like it because it'd probably be more lit up where,
Yeah.
nothing's getting down there. So I think that would be something that would be the next project that we would want to look into, because, like I said, if we have the renters there and they're willing to pay for it, why wouldn't we take advantage of that? So we have something in the end instead of
Yeah.
something we're paying for rent.
Maybe resources could look at that.
Probably not.
All right, that's all I have, thank you.
I will refer that issue to resources. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Are you saying yes?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I love having resource meetings. Now, the other question was, since a lot of, or I think almost all of the Middlesex League schools, high schools now have a different start time, how is that, have you heard anything, how's it working out? Horrible?
It works well for us.
Yeah.
But it's bad across the board. Maybe not for the schools,
Yeah.
but for athletics, it's been bad.
Yeah,
We have now, we have some teams that don't get out until, 3:30, 3:20, 3:15 in that ballpark. And by the time they get to us, by the time they get buses because of the bus issues, they're not pulling up to our field until 4:10, 4:15. Now, like tonight in the field hockey game, when I left, they were still playing. The JV team plays after, so it's going to be difficult when, when it gets darker.
Right.
We're lucky, up here, the Joyce, we're getting them in, but I think it's going to get tight pretty soon.
is it harder for our team because they have to hang around for, a couple of hours after school gets out before?
Yeah, well, we usually try to get them to the field, so, the bus company's been great. They've been, they've told us they're not gonna be here at 2:30. We used to always be spoiled getting them at 2:30, but we wouldn't wanna have being picked up at 2:30 if we're not playing that before.
Yeah.
So, they hang around. It hasn't been an issue. And the buses have been 3:10, 3:15, and off till we go. So it's been a good transition for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kessler?
Last quick question, you just mentioned the JV plays after. Was that an issue a little while back where they would kind of swap them, and is that what we do now? So they,
What was that again?
every other game, the JV goes first. and-
Male, female.
In field hockey?
Always male, female.
In field hockey, they do that. Field hockey is always the varsity goes first, the JVs go second.
Okay,
Sometimes they'll go JV first, varsity second, if they're gonna do senior night or.
yeah. I think it was, John just said, I think it was the male, female, not to have the
Yeah.
varsity.
Oh, yeah.
We did have
okay.
issues with
I-
that. That has changed as in
Yep.
basketball.
Okay, I got the wrong top.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Duran,
Okay,
for
thank you.
coming and giving us an
Thank
update
you
on
guys for all the
athletics.
support all the time, and we,
course.
we're lucky. Thank you.
Thanksgiving homer win.
Oh, well, that's another thing.
Sorry.
I didn't want to bring it up, Jimmy.
Yeah. Thanksgiving is going to be at Fenway Park.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Virtual though.
Yeah, it's
Play the game
virtual.
virtual.
We've been lucky enough from Paul Manganaro, a Winchester guy, works in Woburn. He met somebody through somebody, and they asked if we would be interested in the Woburn Winchester Thanksgiving Day game being at Fenway Park, and of course we said yes. And, so it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday. We don't have an exact day yet, but we're definitely one of the teams.
So it won't be on Thanksgiving.
It will not be on Thanksgiving.
Who was the home team?
We are the home team.
So we lost the revenue?
We did, no, there's gonna be, we're getting money back from
Okay.
Fenway. I think they give you back half.
Oh,
And you
okay.
have to sell a certain amount of tickets.
Okay.
So it's, I think we'll probably make out better.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time is the game?
It could be possibly at 4 or 7.
Okay.
That's the slots that they have. It's usually a city team that's at 4 o'clock, and usually a team that brings a big crowd is usually the second game.
Okay.
But John, that same question was asked by a football coach,
Yeah.
and said, well, do we get to get home game? And he said, well, I can call him up and tell him, forget it. And I said, oh, you're no.
Wow, okay. That's quite the update, thank
Yeah.
you.
That's good.
All right, great, thank you.
All right.
We're right on top of it.
So, school committee members, I was supposed to recognize Faith Frandudo during public comment, and so she's waiting very patiently on Zoom. So would the committee allow her to speak out of order?
Make a motion to suspend the regular order of business.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, let me just get Faith up here, and I owe her an apology.
And can Cable get her, you know, this, Crowley?
Miss Frandudo? Here she is.
Can you guys hear me?
I am going to turn you up.
Put your mic right in front of it.
Yep.
At least Cable will get it.
Okay, let's see if we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Give me a second. It's okay. We're good.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Saying yes? Oh.
Dave, I really appreciate your grace and your patience. I can't even, I'm so sorry this happened, but I can see you, and now try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Loud and
Okay,
clear.
great. All right.
Whenever you're ready, we're ready to listen, and we're very, very happy to have you here with us tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me. So in terms of what's happening and upcoming events at the high school, we had a successful back-to-school night last week. Tuesday, 9/28, we had the senior parent guidance presentation from 6 to 7 p.m. with the new guidance director, Mrs. Duran. The peer mediation training, which is happening for the first time in a year, took place last week as well. WMHS has a great group of motivated and new trained student mediators advised by Ms. DeLuna and Mrs. Cardoso. MIFA nights are being held virtually for parents with students applying to college and are promoted to parents by Ms. Callanan and the guidance department. Also, the history department was granted a charter for Rho Kappa NHS chapter. The induction will be to be determined, but we'll have one in the fall for seniors and one in the spring for juniors. 2 students were recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Program, which is a national recognition for their performance on the PSAT. Sahana Dar was recognized with a letter of commendation, and Persis Engineer advanced as a semifinalist and as a result is eligible to compete for a National Merit Scholarship. The press release will be sent to local news outlets this week, recognizing both students. All athletic teams, clubs, and band are off to a great start this fall as well. The guidance department will be hosting college visits over the next several weeks, starting today with Salem State. In terms of upcoming events, on September 30th, the freshman winter training, which will be held from 8:30 to 11:30, will be starting up after not being run last year. On October 1st, the Alice Emergency Drill Training will be held during advisory. On October 2nd, the SAT will be held. On October 23rd, the ACT will be held. And on November 6th, the SAT will be held again at WMHS. On October 4th, the class election process will begin and will conclude on the 15th. And also an activities fair will take place as a part of the election process as well. On October 5th, it will be Senior Portrait Day, which is free sitting in yearbook photos for all seniors. On October 6th, there will be a vaccination clinic at the high school, and $30 gift cards will be granted for all those who get vaccinated, and they will also be entered in a lottery for one of 3 $200 gift cards. The math team will meet on October 7th, and the science team will also have a meet on October 12th. On October 16th, the PSAT will be run by the WMHS Guidance Department. October 19th, a blood drive through the Key Club will be held at the high school. And lastly, on October 28th will be the National Honor Society induction at the high school from 6:30 to 8:30. And all the members of the school committee and district leadership will be followed up with an invitation formally by Ms. Callahan. And that is all I have for updates at the high school.
Thank you so much, Ms. Prenduto. Does anyone have any questions for Faith?
Good job.
No, but again, thank you so much for your patience, and I am just very sorry. I didn't put you on the agenda, and I was supposed to recognize you, and I want to thank Ms. McLeod for rushing over here with her Zoom to get you up. And that was a wonderful presentation, and I think the school committee members are fully updated completely on what's happening at the high school, so thank you. It's only 7:30, so you have the rest of the night to do your homework. So,
Thank you so much.
and of
for
course,
having
I will say that you are a member of the school committee, so you can stay and you can deliberate on anything on the agenda, but you can't vote, so you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
She'd rather be home.
And I think Ms.
Thank you so
McLeod will
much.
appreciate your computer back. All right, you take care, sweetheart, okay? That was
Thank you.
inappropriate, sorry. Okay, I didn't say that. That was Mom coming out. All right. Yes.
Do your homework.
We have a person on the agenda at C, so would we like to take Director of Human Resources, Ms. Boyajian, out of order?
Make a motion to take out of order and have C instead of B.
Okay, we have a second, and any discussion on this high stakes motion?
Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Director Boyajian.
So Marissa is a familiar face to everybody, I believe. She was the principal at the Alta Vista School for the past few years, but has accepted the position of Human Resource Director. And, I don't know if she knew what she was getting into when she signed up in a pandemic, where it's a challenge to find people, but she's done a great job, and so an opportunity for you to kind of highlight some of the things that you've been doing, and then potentially answer people's questions.
Marissa Boyajian, like I said, formerly known as principal from Alta. It's like I said, I jumped in, so it's been a whirlwind since August 16th, 7 weeks now. So obviously the goal was to pick up where the hiring left off with Judy O'Neill, who, before I say anything, has been incredible. She's kind of paused everything she needed to do. She was there with me. She said, "Who's there? I'm here for you. I'm here." Obviously stopped everything else that she was doing, including her transition into her role, to ensure that she was catching me up on what I was walking into, to continue on as seamlessly as possible, both the processes and procedures and things like that. So I'm incredibly appreciative to her for the time that she's taken. She continues to take, and I'm fortunate that she's, again, right down the street if I need her, and she's been there throughout this whole process. So thank you to Judy.
Thank you for that, and for mentioning her. Thank you, Ms. O'Neill. Thank you.
Same goes out to the leadership that's here in this building, because it's the support and the confidence that they've shown since I've come in. At a time, like I said, where there was an urgency for school support for staff to come in to make sure that school was going to open and open seamlessly. So they kind of let me go. They were really patient. The team around me, like I said, that's across the hall and next door is outstanding. So that confidence right there that each all had and who's working and heading up the school was amazing. So that's it. So coming in, it was, like I said, finishing up the hires that were already in process, and since then, it's been nonstop. So I think at last count, we're at nearly at 50 new hires since I walked in 7 weeks ago, and still going. A couple of things in right now, and still some more to go. But the gap that we closed and the classrooms that we filled and the positions we filled have been, like I said, with the support of everybody, have been monumental, to say the least. So thank you for all of that. And now moving forward, as soon as we kind of get smoke and clear now, I feel like everyone's in a better place, the schools are in a better place, the kids are in a better place. It's time to look forward to now in our 4th year of HR. I'm in a position where I can work, and I've talked to Mr. Alcanetta a lot about where we're going to start to move and grow as an HR department. First and foremost, we've been sitting and walking through the onboarding process repeatedly, obviously, over 50 times since I've been in here. It's time that we can kind of move forward and see what we can do to make it better. So whether that's updating and making it more efficient and enhance it through online processes, working with our own Jen Judkins and her technology department to help and support that. I feel like that's going to be a great next step to bring our new hires in more efficiently and in a more organized way. Because I'm going to be honest with you, just kind of sitting through, if I picture me sitting in there trying to figure out, and work through packets of paperwork and all that, it's stressful. It's stressful for me to have someone, you'll feel like someone's breathing down my neck with all this important information and to have all of this stuff on hand. So I feel like our next step in improving this process for everybody and welcoming new staff and new hires in here, I think that's a good next step for us. So that's one thing. Another is outreach, to make sure that not only new staff, is just the amount that I've learned about what we offer as a school system, just from being in this position, I didn't know otherwise. So as new hires have the benefit of knowing this, whether it's the employee assistance program, the wellness programs, things like that, the benefits that are offered, and just the intricacies that come along with it. I'm not sure everybody knows that. People who've been here, I'm not sure everybody knows that. So ways to communicate that in a more global way, whether that's through a periodic newsletter from HR that's delivered to everybody, things like that. So those things that we've been thinking a little bit as well. Yeah, I mean, that's a good vision of me. We're now 4th year as well with HR. And moving on with the strategic plan, I think we're in a good direction to be able to kind of move forward and see these are our next steps and our next goals. Challenges to date would be ongoing recruitment. I think that's there are still pockets where we need to fill. So we're going to continue to do that and make sure we're bringing in the right people and putting them in the right spaces. So that's ongoing. And working with Jean Cloud and making sure we're getting substitutes where we need to. She's been working tirelessly too there. So we're moving. We're doing a lot of things. It's long and a quick segment, but yeah, we're in a good place though. We're in a good place.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lipset.
Thank you and welcome, and I'm happy to see you in a new role here. A couple quick questions. So you just mentioned pockets where we are still doing ongoing recruitment. Give us a sense, are there any particular areas where we're currently not able to fill in larger quantities than in others, and what you think might be is the holdup or the delay or obstacle?
That's an amazing question. Yeah, I would say predominantly we're going to go with the building substitutes. And I think when we met as a group that last time here, we were talking about how we need to make sure we have these people on hand when there are pockets, and we can't keep stressing the in-house teachers and the paraprofessionals who have to do that. So I think at this point we're working, getting really creative to try to fill those holes where we just need that support, where there's an absence. I feel like if there is a couple of different reasons, I feel like, well, first of all, I know that we've been able to take some of our substitutes that have been in the pool for a bit, who now decided, you know what, I want to be in a different capacity, I want to be in there, I want a different role. So some of them have actually come off of the sub list and could be serving as special education paraprofessionals right now. So they wanted to serve in a different capacity, a full-time capacity. So they've come out, so we kind of lost them, but gave them at the same time in another role. Another reason is there are people who just don't want to float around the building. They don't want to come in. They still have that, I don't feel comfortable yet. Still people who have been consistent in coming in and filling in the needs, even in specific schools, that it's not quite there. That confidence, I feel like, is not there yet. And the other piece, I think, is part-time. I think a lot of people are looking for full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So part-time interventionist is one role that we're kind of trying to get creative, getting people to, if you're not going to substitute, maybe you can come and just take a small group and work on some skills with them in a part-time capacity to keep those so we can get a more robust intervention and move block up and running in the school. So those we're actively trying to convince people that they could come in and do this and be an important part of the school community and help out in that way.
Thank you. And I've heard a little bit that maybe some buildings are struggling with lunch monitors as well. Is that the case?
I'm going to tell you, we're okay with lunch monitors.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
they're
heard wrong.
coming in in drips, but I think that everyone's okay right now. Right, Gene, am I wrong? Yeah, we're okay, right? We're doing good.
Excellent. That's good news. So, one of the long-term goals that we talk about a lot in terms of hiring is, how do we improve the diversity among our school staff, especially our student-facing staff. And I wondered if you're coming in with a fresh take. Give it some thoughts on how you might think about approaching this. What are some ways that we can sort of think outside the box in terms of recruitment, in terms of reaching out and making sure that our district is out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I'm doing right now to try to just kind of diversify where we're finding candidates. So I think where we're looking into that, whether it's handshake, whether it's going out to colleges and things like that, recruiting from there, and just ensuring that we advertise our community as a highly diverse community. We're looking for anyone to come in a way that supports the diverse culture that we have here, in addition to ensuring that we're supporting high-quality education as well. So that's all part of the package. So that's another piece of what we're doing is trying to find platforms to be able to go out and find quality venues to go and recruit high-quality educators.
Do you think that there are sort of changes we can make to our hiring practices that might help in this regard, thinking about other incentives that we might be able to offer incoming educators, no matter who, that might allow for more mobility? And I know one of the issues is sometimes in terms of transportation, in terms of finding housing. I mean, these are areas that I'm wondering if there's been any discussion in working towards.
It's all part of, I mean, it's all part of the package. I think as far as incentives, we talked to Ralph and I about that. Work around that, but yeah, like I said, it's just a matter of finding the right cookies to understand that this is a great place for everybody to work, and it's a matter of proving that and getting it to and talking to them to see who we are.
Thank you.
Ms. Cormier.
Thank you. So I get Mr. Lipset sort of stole my question, but I'm going to expand on it. So as far as the lunch monitors, that is something that I had received some correspondence on as well. And it might be that my information is a little out of date. So I know, for instance, at the Harold Wyman, they were looking for lunch monitors, and I know that we all received, just before the meeting started, some correspondence about before-school care.
Right. That is on, the before-school care is ongoing. As far as the lunch monitors go, the tricky part is assigning the lunch monitors. We have a school like the Harold Wyman. They're running a schedule right now where, because of the distancing, still the masking and distancing portion, they've allotted their several lunch periods, which obviously there's a greater need for that, even that 2-hour block of supervision, which means they need more bodies. So that's where when they came in with with the 911, we need to cover these lunches, what we're deficit with what's the fourth lunch, we need more. So we made that a priority. So with that happened, we kind of plugged in what we can, but keeping in mind that Alta Vesta also needs one. They need one. The Shamrock is still down. They could use one. They could use one more. If they have one, we could use them. So we keep that in the back of our mind. So they've been trickling in, and like I said, Jean's been amazing about making sure that they're going out. She's catching them right away, getting them on the phone, come down, fill out an application, talk to them. We've been talking to them, make sure they're ready to go.
So the before-school care, so part of what I was hearing was yes, that the lunch was a priority, that even if there were some maybe candidates that could only do the morning, they weren't even talking about that yet because we really need to focus on lunch. And so it seems like, and I don't know the intricacies of it, but in the before-school care, it's a sort of a smaller pool that you need. I don't know how many folks that you need to have in that position, but I know a lot of the families do rely on this, families who are, whether they're educators or have a longer commute or whatever it is. So I'm curious what else we can do to move forward with that and get the back to school, before school care back in place.
And I feel like before the shutdown, I feel like we're in a far better place as far as before care. And I
Sure.
think it kind of went stagnant, I think, since we've come back. I'll go over the protocols. I feel like that's been the case. We had Matthew Bell program.
Right.
At a couple of the schools, we've had, I think a couple of schools like the Breeze, I think, had their own program that they run on their own, things like that. But I think there's, hopefully, at some point, we'll bring that back again. But I think that's kind of, hasn't been at the top of it. We just need to get these kids back in. We need to make sure that the district is covered and we need to make sure it's scheduled.
If I may, just to amplify, the before school it's maybe an hour. So all employers are having trouble finding staff. And then we further, we have a larger hurdle in that we're only offering essentially an hour. So it becomes difficult to find somebody. Not all the staff wants to do it anymore. Like sometimes we'll have a paraprofessional or a teacher who might come an hour in early. We haven't seen a lot of that desire. We have reached out to the community, to parents, and the supply is not necessarily there. But as Ms. Barajian has said, that we're trying to piece that together.
Yeah. I wonder if it's possible, I don't know what the time frame is for that morning, if you're able to sort of package that together with the lunch monitor, because I know they're doing recess also. If you start at, I don't know, 7 or whatever time it is, until 12:30 or 1, if that makes it more attractive, perhaps?
And I feel like that, it definitely needs to be a priority again, but in all honesty, at this point, like I said, filling spots like paraprofessionals.
Oh, absolutely.
Special education lessons, those are kind of taken for now, and we continue to pull these things up from the top priority list. That's definitely, it's there, it's been there, and it's going to remain there until it's coming. It's getting there, but like I said, lunch monitors, we feel fairly, at the elementary level, we're feeling comfortable with now, and I think that would be right with lunch monitors to make sure that, like I said, even some hires who come in here who want to work, they couldn't make it before childcare work to be able to start at a building at 8:15. So that is, it's definitely it's a need, not just for someone who wants to work, but for anybody who wants to work, and that is the case. So yeah, it's definitely a priority. It's definitely coming back as a hiring necessity.
Great. I'm glad to hear that it's on the radar.
Yep.
Thank you.
Dr. Wells?
Yeah, hi. So I think I'm looking at the entire HR program. And I'm amazed you're able to sit down because the list of things you have to do, so I think that really is something we have to think about, developing an HR program in terms of the way it should be. I think this is sort of the approach the administration's taken, a long-range approach. When superintendent took over, we didn't have a lot of administrators to help out, but I think we have to take the same approach with the HR program and make sure we have a sufficient staff because, hearing everybody talk, you're asked to do everything. And I'm going to ask you about other things too, and it's just, I understand one person can't do it, so a couple of things. Verifying qualifications for educators. That's probably your department. How's that done? Or
Checking and double-checking licensures to make sure that whatever position available is. For instance, special education, I know Lauren Ryan has said we need some very specific qualifications for this very specific role. So ensuring that they're licensed appropriately for that, whether it's going through the DESI portal to make sure that the people are licensed appropriately, what licensure is required. And like I said, if an emergency license is necessary, that process has to be in place and completed prior to even interviewing for the job, at least accepting the job and being hired for the position. So, all those qualifications, the licensures especially.
Yeah. So,
incredibly important.
with everything you're doing, are we able to keep up with, to get all this done as staff are coming on board? You had 50 new staff, obviously. So those are 50 individuals that, we had no records on. So I'm just trying to figure out, what's if there's backlog, say we got 50 new people, we're a third of the way through verifying everything or something like that.
I was going to say, there's a lot of different people who do like the hiring process and part of like the committees.
Okay.
And a lot of the work of the screening will be done even in the pre-committee work,
Okay.
where licensure would be checked before they're even invited for
Okay.
the interview
But is
from
the-
principals.
But as, because, those of us who have been on long enough know there's been problems in the past. And so, I understand sort of, people along the way doing it, but are we documenting the things so that we can trace everything back, I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it actually happens through my office. So,
Okay.
Carrie Carpenter, she's got a spreadsheet now.
Okay.
Of all employees with their license. And then we also send out when your license is going to expire. So
Okay.
it's incumbent on the employee to know
Right.
that, but we also send
Yeah.
a reminder. So
Okay.
we are, over the last couple of years, it's come out of my office.
Okay, so we have that process.
Right.
Okay, good. All right. The other thing is, I know there's a mandate about vaccination. Who is responsible for verifying that? Is that from HR or?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
answer that.
Yeah.
That information was pushed out to staff, and it went to the school nurses.
Okay,
And so they are the keepers of record as
Okay.
it relates to vaccination, and then they coordinate the testing, which happens on Fridays,
Mhm.
for staff that need to fall under that protocol.
and so we're 100% compliant with the guidance that we've established for that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so it's been 2 weeks, we've been doing that, at 100% compliant and 100%, or 0% positive.
Right,
Like,
compliant, yeah. Yeah, we can't control whether people get infected.
It's been very positive.
Yeah, good.
But we've had no positive.
The other thing I was about, something I think that would be useful for the school committee is salary comparisons with comparable districts, so we can determine, we're talking about staff shortages and so forth. Are we offering salaries that are competitive nowadays? And I think, you sort of get ad hoc information, but I think having a process where we pick out the communities that we identify as comparable, not necessarily the Middlesex League, but, things that we think we're competing against for hiring, and then have that annually looked at, so that, people, when we're hiring subs, we're hiring lunch monitors, are we competitive? And things like that. So that's a thing I'm throwing on your plate again. Could we get a breakdown? I don't know what the hiring this year was in terms, we talk about diversity in hiring, but I don't think we necessarily see the results. We know how effective it was, how ineffective it was, and so maybe some information about that. That way, because we can't determine whether we're going to the right places if we don't know what the end result is. I'm talking about the school committee. Obviously, the administration does, but it would be good if we could see how we're doing and set goals for ourselves. And if we don't meet the goal, then we look back and say, why didn't we meet the goal? So something to think about for goals. Anyways, and then with the before-school program, the only thought I had was, if we have the space in the schools, could we work with the parents and see, a rotating set of parents agree to, watch the kid, I don't know all the ramifications about that and so forth, but that was one of the things I was thinking about, is potentially having a rotating set of parents, maybe agreeing to watch neighborhood kids and so forth, if they have a space allocated in the schools. So, but that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Chisholm?
I like that idea, except that everybody would have to be core-read, everybody would
Right,
have to
but-
be all that checks.
Okay.
And then some parents are as reliable as not as other parents, so I just wouldn't want us to plan on, Mrs. Smith showing up and she decides that she doesn't want to come in that day. But anyway, the building subs, do we have those now in place in every school?
Not in every school.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Okay, that's our goal to do that.
It's-
That's the greatest challenge right now, and if that's, like I said, it's not over. So that the candidates are still presenting themselves. Sometimes it's a matter of being creative and saying, I know you're on this list, but would you be considered coming in 4 days a week? Would you consider just supporting vacancies that are out, or if there aren't any that day, you can serve as go take a small group somewhere and work with campus too. So the versatility that position holds, I think, is incredibly important. I think we're going to keep working until we fill every building.
So with that, I know that we've brought this up before, Ms. Moran, as far as a different pay scale for someone that, because school was only open 4 days through the whole COVID, but now if we're going to need them 5 days, there wouldn't be a break in their job, so maybe that would be paid at a different rate, not maybe as a teacher's rate, but maybe we could offer them something that's on a better scale so that we could get someone that would show up every single day.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the financial piece.
Yeah.
of it.
We can actually, we can talk
Benefits
about that.
of
Yeah. We've definitely talked about
Yeah.
that in finance,
Okay.
about that issue, of course.
Okay, great, that's fine. Those are my things.
Mr. Lipset?
Just to come back to a moment for before school care, this isn't something that I expect anyone to have off the top of their heads, but would it be possible down the line to get a breakdown of what schools we are currently running before school programs at, what schools do we have a waiting list at?
I have that.
You have it?
I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great. It exists.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
First of all, Dr. Riley's trying to fill your shoes up there at the Alta Vista. She seems to be settling in very well.
Okay, Dr. Rala, you have to learn.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're settling in very well under the HR department, but I think over the summer months between yourself and Ms. O'Neill, I think it'd be interesting for us and the public to know, during the process, what was like the biggest draw when you had a candidate that came into Woburn, besides a wonderful school community to work with? Why is Woburn attractive to come and apply and work and be in our system if it came up during the interview process?
It's been a key question, actually, in interviews. That's been a standing question. What do what privilege draws you to Woburn, and where do you think that you will make the greatest impact in Woburn Public Schools? And some of the responses have been incredible. I look forward to working collaboratively with teachers and families and getting to know the community better. And those who are familiar with the community, I love this community, and I want to be a bigger part of it. Working within the family, within the students. So just, and even through word of mouth, I've always wanted to get into the school system because I've heard one of the things about the teachers and the educators there and just the community itself. So just the amazing positive things that have drawn them to A, apply, and B, to again stay in the to teach. So we'll be even applicants who apply for one position, a second position. And that didn't work out. That's still, as you can see, that same applicant who continued to apply for other positions because there is a real positive drive out there for teaching.
Great. I'm glad to hear that, and I hope the public pays attention to that as well, because it's a credit to everybody, not just ourselves here, but the entire system, entire staff, and HR is going to be busy with that as we continue further. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mulrennan. Any further questions for Human Resources Director, Ms. Boyajian? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For coming before us tonight.
Motion return to the regular order of business?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Motion passes. I just have a question to the superintendent. In case people are interested in working at before school care at the Woburn Public Schools, how do they apply?
I would contact Kristen Maloney, who's the principal at the Harold Wyman.
And how many people would they possibly need in order to run the program? Could you have them tonight?
I don't know off the
Okay.
top of my head.
But more than one?
Oh, yeah.
More
Yeah,
than
you
three?
need to, I really don't know. I know
Yeah.
that Ms. Maloney's put it out multiple times to a variety of different places, so
Okay,
I'm not totally sure.
yeah, all right.
How many they, to make it.
That would be
successful.
details at the
Right.
Harold Wyman?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just putting it out there in case Mrs. Chisholm wants to apply.
You're up early.
Yeah,
After
I
she
know.
drives the bus and then
I
she's
would
going to
like to
come in.
look, but I'm up.
And Aaron's there.
Yeah.
All right,
Bring her breakfast.
returning back to report on summer programming.
Sure, so
Dr. Crowley?
we're going to sort of tag team this, Dr. Baldessari, Ms. Young, and myself. Over the course of the summer, this summer was unique, obviously, because of the pandemic. And I'm really, really proud. I say this a lot, but we did a lot in Woburn to alleviate, mitigate against learning loss, which we knew would be a real thing coming out of a hybrid/remote experience last year. And we did things differently, and I think it's an opportunity to kind of share what we did over the summer to try to prepare our students to come back into the school year. So I believe that you have in front of you a sort of a handout, and I'm going to turn it over. It looks like Power Scholars is at the top of the handout, so I believe that's the YMCA program that was at the Reeves, and Dr. Baldessari can speak to this.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's a full-day program that took place at the Reeves Elementary School. And you can see from the data dashboard that's on the top of the page there, 73 children participated for a full day of programming. And they do a pre and post test on the students in these in the YMCA programs. And the Power Scholars program does run in other schools around the Commonwealth. So they've got a bit of notoriety. We're really proud to continue our partnership with the YMCA. And the data that they present really speaks for itself. To have that many students in full day getting 63 hours of reading and mathematics when most kids across the country are home, or not having that opportunity. I think that the results will speak for themselves, when the time comes for these 73 students. So I'm really proud of it, and if anybody has any specific questions, I think the Y does a great job of presenting their data, but it's excellent.
Can you tell us what LI?
Low income.
Low income.
Yeah.
All right.
I can kind of jump in. So when Dr. Baldessari and I looked kind of went through and we're just kind of making sure we had all the programs, we calculated out that we provided academic and social emotional support to 818 students this summer, which I think is a pretty remarkable number. And certainly as we're kind of running through the quick notes on this program, a lot of back work went into them, and a lot of people who weren't even just teachers facing in terms of like the administrative end from these offices and kind of getting things running, and we provided transportation to a lot of them, and that was a lot of pieces that we pulled together in about a month of right before summer hit. So there's a lot of academic pieces, but a lot of kind of, I guess, logistical parts that you don't see here that I just wanted to kind of mention. But I will touch base kind of quickly on the Summer Enrichment Program as well as the Summer Acceleration Program, which were both grant-funded programs. Our Summer Enrichment Program, which served we always struggle with it's K-8 or rising first grade through rising ninth grade, and we had 383 students, and it was a cross-section of schools. I just had kind of noted here that because, as Dr. Baldessari will talk about, our 21st Century Grant, many of our Malcolm White students participated in that program, which is why the numbers were low in the summer enrichment. But we had not only classroom instruction in ELA and math daily, but we also provided, we embedded our previous summer EL program into this program, and so students were able to not only work with our EL teacher, EL paraprofessionals, but also have inclusion time with peers, and so that was a really great opportunity that we don't always have kind of classrooms for these students to enter and join. And so this was a 5-week program. Again, as I had said before, we had transportation was provided, as well as we were able to provide breakfast and a take-home lunch daily. And then the Summer Acceleration Program was an additional 1 week beyond our Summer Acceleration Program, and that was, we had a literacy focus for our Rising K, Rising 1, and Rising 2. I know, I get them very confused. And then a math accelerated program for Rising 3, Rising 4, Rising 8 and 11. It was very specific on what we had to target through the grant, so that was how that focus was determined. And we had a full day, as well as students were provided with music and kind of project-based learning activities during our curriculum subcommittee. Meg Patrici from the high school was able to share a lot of kind of specifics about these programs. They were great. I just realized the time is wrong on that. It was a full day.
3 hours a day, summer enrichment?
Summer enrichment was 3 hours a day.
So just so everyone's aware, because of the number of students, that's 27,576 hours of instruction that were provided.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was great. And again, Ms. Boyajian did a tremendous job hiring many, many teachers. Again, as I said, the logistical end, we found a lot of people to work this summer, which was not always easy. And our summer acceleration program, just also to note that this actually welcomed in about 18 rising kindergartners. So these are students who are brand new to Woburn Public Schools, and those students were able to come into our schools early and kind of get a jump start into starting their education here. So that was something that we haven't always done before. So.
And so I'm tasked with the ESY program and the extended year program that's been running consistently in the Woburn Public Schools for the past years. And it was this year at both the Shamrock and at the high school. And it paralleled the dates and times that have been shared with you. I asked Maureen for an update, and she gave me a lot of pages. So, and I'm going to do my best just to synthesize it. At the close of school in June, ESY had been recommended for 252 students. 38 opted not to participate. Of the 214 students that registered, this is interesting, 182 registered for in-person ESY and 32 registered for remote ESY, and remote was required this summer from DESE. So that was an option for our ESY program, which then led to a challenging hiring process. So that was, we did it, but it was just yet another challenge that the Woburn Public Schools faced and did. There were a total of 26 teachers, 42 paraprofessionals, 9 related service providers, and 4 nurses. And as I said earlier, it was in 2 separate buildings, the high school and the Shamrock. This year, we did have 2 co-site directors, if you will. So Dr. Linda Riley, who's now the Alta Vista principal, was the director of the Shamrock, and Chris O'Neill was the director of at the high school. In the past, we've had 1 point person who then had to split between both schools, and the recommendation moving forward is that we continue the model of having this, a person on site. And that led to a low incidence of discipline and safety issues, likely due to the site director, but also an increase in qualified counseling and staff. There were culture and theme weeks, such as Superhero Week, Teddy Bear Week, Fire Safety. There was a fire truck day. I don't know how that happened. It was pretty neat. When the fire truck pulls up to the Shamrock and the kids go out, it was fun to see. So overall, the ESY program not only just did its job, but did a really, really good job to meet the complex needs of our students during the summer, both in person and remote. And so I know that Director Ryan is planning on sharing this with you, but there were some tweaks that she wanted to make before giving this to you. So please expect further information on the ESY program in the near future.
And then finally, we have our 21st century after school and summer learning time grant that was awarded just in time for us to, it was kind of crazy, but badge of honor to have that grant award. The students there participated in full-day programming from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they have instruction, and then it's a partnership with the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club that we would have recreational assistants that create recreational activities that are connected to their learning opportunities. And it was kind of tough to get the staffing squared away for the summer. And this program actually runs after school now during the school year, and we are having a challenge getting staff in place now. So we have a graduated open, 2 classrooms are ready to go, but we're still deficient 3 certified teachers. And we have advertised twice to our whole district. So I'll be meeting with Ms. Boyajian in the coming, probably tomorrow, to see if we can find some support from the outside. But we have high hopes for this program because it's the purpose of the program is to help students who aren't speaking English and who are low income close the gap. It's a close the gap program. But we're going to need the staff to do that. So, but they had a great summer, and I'm really proud of Mr. Nickerson and all the folks at the Malcolm White that made that possible.
Great. Okay, any questions? Dr. Wells?
I think the superintendent mentioned 26 teachers, and in our paper it said 81.
So it's teachers/paras, that includes all service providers. I asked Ms. Ryan just to give me a total number instead of writing out all the the descriptors that he had. And all of those, OT, PT, speech, paraprofessionals, all of them are grouped into the one.
Okay, so there was over almost 100 people in the two programs. Yeah.
Because that includes the teachers for the virtual program and the in-person program.
And do we have to go outside the system to find teachers for these?
We did, yeah. So what we found, quite candidly, teachers are tired.
Yeah.
They were tired at the end of last year, and they're tired now.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we're having trouble filling the vacancy that Dr. Baldessari just alluded to in the before school. And so that, we did have to go outside to fill these.
I will say, as a kind of, I guess, a silver lining to that, a lot of the positions that we're talking about filling, we brought in, we hired a lot of staff for summer, and then those are staff that we interviewed and hired for full-time positions in district, and we were able to almost have like an interview by watching them teach all summer, so when we were hiring them, we knew a lot more about the staff, so.
Because I was going to suggest, maybe start, recruiting at the college, like Salem State, and where people are graduating, and tell them, here, even if they don't get a job here, they'll get something put on their resume.
We got many of this, I would say, especially the summer enrichment program was many recent graduates.
Right, yeah. Okay, good. And then the only other thing I would ask is, in our budget book, or budget, like we should call it extended school year. I think in our budget it says summer program, or like we should try to use the same names, so that when we're looking at the budgets, we can relate to what we're hearing, because I think it just says is in the, it just says summer program. And,
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bob's already thinking about color coding it. Mr. Lipset?
Just a couple things. So, and part of this is calling ahead to what we're going to be talking about when I read out curriculum subcommittee notes. But, Ms. Patrici walked us through some really exciting project-based work that had been going on in summer programming. That's something that we sort of was talking about here. What is sort of the long-term thinking and how we can bring more of that into our regular year curriculum? Supporting some of the things that we saw in that curriculum meeting were fantastic, and kids were clearly really engaged, clearly applying what they were learning to real-world situations, and so just sort of thinking forward, what can we do to sort of bring some of that into the classroom as well?
Yeah. Not to go too specific, it's actually kind of timely that the entire curriculum department sat on a webinar today that Kim Gustinoven from the Science Curriculum Coordinator, all on project-based learning, and they're actually working as a department collectively on kind of working through this work together. And as we've worked through curriculum design, it's a lot of the work we talk about when kind of getting to that last stage is around it, but it takes a lot of, it's not just about creating the projects, but it's also around facilitating and kind of looking at the needs for staff to do that work.
Yeah. Dovetails nicely also with the civics progress project that's part of the curriculum now. The other question I had so what are our plans in terms of future development in this area? I mean, this seems like it was a really successful summer, despite the fact that we were, had potentially some staffing hiccups. The grant came in last minute. I know the grant is something that's going to be around for a couple of years. I don't want to talk a little bit about some of the other programs and how we can extend those as well, or what can we do to develop them in the future.
So, okay, so that the The SALT program is a 3-year commitment. If we are successful and we abide by our application, we will be eligible for an additional 3 years. And then in the second cycle, I would be able to request additional funding. So if, right now it's at about $500,000, but at that second cycle, it would push it to over $1 million over 6 years. But we have to, because it's a federal grant, there's a lot of data that needs to be collected by SACID number, and we have to show that we're being impactful. That's why I have a little bit of angst right now about getting it off the ground and getting it going. I think that the program that takes place with the Power Scholars is a very similar program to that, and the 21st Century program that takes place at the Shamrock, that's sponsored by the Boys and Girls Club, also has some similar ideologies to it. So those things are all in addition to regular learning time, and I think they're really important. Is that what you're asking, Mr. Luce?
I was going to say, my sense is, I think we're in September of the school year. I think a lot of this was built around what we had known was, students being out of buildings, seemingly, many kids from March of 2020. And a lot of this was built in kind of response to where we were. And I think that a lot of families probably felt more inclined to have their students continue in a very kind of school-like summer setting. And so I think that it's kind of than maybe before, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's kind of looking I think there is always need, but I think that this past summer presented probably slightly different than I would imagine typically, that parents want their students to attend schools, in the summer as much.
And that students want to,
yes.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'm thinking, we know that the summer gap can present a learning loss,
Mm-hmm.
especially for low-income students, for students who are learning English,
Mm-hmm.
for other more vulnerable student populations at a higher rate than other students.
Mm-hmm.
That matches with the data in terms of who we saw in our programs.
Yeah.
So just sort of thinking along those lines in terms of whether or not these are programs that we could feasibly continue in the long term,
Yeah.
given family buy-in, given student buy-in,
Yes.
given staff buy-in.
No, and I think we learned a lot. I do, and I think that if, given the chance to kind of take it and look further, I think there's a lot of positive, and there's also a lot of things that I would say that maybe I would think about differently.
If I may, let me give you another perspective. It takes money to do this,
Yes.
to employ all of these people and to buy the materials. Of course, excluding SALT, which is at this point a multi-year, and our extended school year that you fund through your budget. Unless you wanted to do something differently in your budget, we wouldn't be able to have the platforms like this that we would next year. Because we've had a couple of grants, whether it be SS3 or the extended summer school or the summer acceleration grant, and SALT, we were able to do that. And at times, we had 3 or 4 of these programs going and 3 or 4 funding sources being pulled for payroll. So from my perspective, it's going to take money, but it was a really great experience because we were able to test the internal controls and the various procedures that we had put in place, and they weren't perfect, but they were very good. They were better than we had in the past. So just something to think about for next year.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Wells?
Yeah, so I was going to follow. So one of the things, gave us a great opportunity to see how these enrichment programs help the students this fall. And so I think if we can collect that data,
Yes.
that can be useful in writing grants to say, we've demonstrated that if we do this, it helps students, or, we can pick out the things that help the students and use those in our supplemental grant application. So hopefully you'll get some useful data out of that and be able to use it to do things that are functioning to help the students.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Mr. Mulrennan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess it's more of a comment or anything about these programs. I mean, educationally, over the top, you know, and like Mr. Young said, by the way, you guys, we're going to do this, and you only have 2.5, maybe 3 weeks to throw it all together. So, you know, to put this effort out there and make it happen for the summer that was almost forgotten. You did mention, Courtney, that we did offer breakfast and lunch.
Yes.
I think that's an important factor to the whole programming as well.
Yes.
You know, some of these students and families are dependent on that, so that's a big plus. And I just wanted to make sure we put a shout out to the lunch program staffing,
Yes.
at least it was running all summer, as well as the custodial staff, if I
Yes.
can comment. Dave had the guys in here. Normally, the buildings wouldn't be as busy as they were this summer. So, you know, David's crew was working around programs. The lunch program was up and running throughout the summer as well as, again, breakfast that, you know, was kind of like, pull us together and we'll see how it goes kind of thing. And now, down the road, we'll have a better program down the road. So I just wanted to make sure that those groups get recognized for their efforts as well, so.
Buses too,
One
right?
additional
The buses?
recognition for the cafeteria staff is that aside from feeding all of the students that Ms. Young and I spoke about, they also shipped breakfast and lunch over to the YMCA at their site, to the Boys and Girls Club at their site, and also to the Power Scholars site. So it wasn't just the kids that were in these programs that were fed. And so you know, in some cases, maybe she didn't have to do that, but she did.
Again, I think that goes back to some of the earlier discussion this evening, is what makes Woburn so special. And I think you nailed it right there, Mike.
Yeah.
At least they have to do the boys club and have to do the Y, you did it. She did it, you know, and you folks in administration, you know, threw this thing together. Marissa over there, brand new in HR. We're gonna need, how many staff you gonna need?
We've had a lot of people.
We're gonna need a lot of people. Bob, I still call Bob the new guy, you know. By the way, Bob, you gotta pay all these people, you gotta keep the lights on, you gotta pay those bills.
Tell me about it.
So, I just can't wait to see what funding and what programs we can put up with for next summer. So thank you again.
No, I think it's important just that because we had so many students in our buildings that we seemingly kept school open for a longer period of time, which does, like, from the system and, like, not just the school part, but it's more phone calls, you know, up here. It's a lot, you know, we kept school open, and I think there's a lot of people that worked, you know, really hard this summer to make these things work and move.
We also had counselors.
Yes.
It wasn't just academic, there was social emotional learning.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that, Ms. Young. I think that's important to note. So the SALT program, Dr. Baldessari, now I'm concerned. Are there families waiting in the wings for this program to get up and running?
Yeah, so as it is right now, our primary grades are, you know, ready to go. I think we're going to open on Monday. The first grade, the second grade. And then Mr. Nickerson, the last I spoke with him, is a potential third teacher. And so our older students right now are the ones that are waiting. The good news is for the recreational assistants they accompany the program from the YMCA, we've identified them, and they are Woburn High School students who are going to walk across at the end of the day, and they're actually going to receive a salary for their work in the program. So we're just going to dig in and try to find those last couple of people to get an after-school program going.
That's really good. And I see that, just for the record, it targets EL and LI folks too. And it's going to be at the Malcolm White, is that right?
Yeah.
And no others?
So Goodyear students and Malcolm White students.
Got it, okay.
And the program has previously already existed with the Shamrock.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So-
So it's under the same concept,
Got it.
Yeah.
just providing extra support. Okay. All right, thank you. Mrs. Chisholm?
Well, maybe we could just send a letter of thanks to the cafeteria people and Lisa and let her know that we appreciate her going above and beyond, just.
Thank you, Mrs. Chisholm. Yeah, I'll be happy to write that. I also want to acknowledge that transportation was also provided as well, so we had that piece as well.
And
So-
if I may, that fell through my office as well, and Carrie Carpenter
Yeah, no, shout out to Carrie,
had to
yes.
figure out summer bus routes
Yes.
in less than 2 weeks.
Yes.
And so when, you know, Courtney's alluding to the phone calls ringing and so forth, that, you know, there were a lot of moving parts to get this accomplished, and so everyone really pitched in, and so and it worked, so here we are.
Ms. Cormier, you had a question?
Just a quick question. So it was mentioned that the Power Scholars, there was a pre and post test. Is that this handout that we received, or is there more than?
They have their own PR folks, so that's what we got probably about 3 hours before the meeting.
Okay.
And I'm sure I could get more because they actually have a connection with a consultant group that does their work for them. So I
Okay,
can get more.
that'd be good to see
Bring it to
also.
SSA.
They do
great.
provide us with the data from that. I'm given that from the YMCA.
Great.
So we do, any student who went to any of these programs with an attendance of 80% or higher, their data is not only looked at throughout the summer and looked at through benchmark one, but we'll follow them all year.
Awesome.
Obviously, the Y uses that for their own grant funding.
Yes, they have to use a different assessment tool.
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Okay. I don't see any more questions. So thank you very much for that presentation. Moving on to subcommittee reports. Finance, Mrs. Chisholm.
John, one thing, because I was
Running a little late that day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just like old times. The Finance Subcommittee met on September 22nd at 4 o'clock. Present were myself, Mr. Lipset, the superintendent, Mr. Alcanada, and Dr. Baldessari. As we've been to practice, we had submitted our questions about the bills and the balance of accounts. They were answered. We had some discussions about some of the bills and some of the balance of accounts, but the committee felt that they were all answered, so I'll make a motion that the list of bills be approved.
Second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. The motion passes.
And regarding the balance of accounts, one thing in talking with Alcanada is that he wants to see actual spending this year for certain accounts because, money's been putting into those accounts, but is that really what's required for that account? So he's going to let some accounts go over, some will go under, but as a subcommittee, we'll keep an eye on it because we want to make sure that money's not taken from areas that the committee deems is important to balance out the accounts. But I think it's a good practice to see what actual spending is for different accounts. So with that note, I'll make a motion that the balance of accounts be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Aye. The motion passes.
And then finally, we discussed having the leader of the lunch program come in and give an overview of what's happening in the lunch program. We all know there's no charges this year, but we want to find out how we're doing in other aspects of the lunch program. And, I think there was a recent survey that didn't really like our lunch program. But it was kind of a bizarre survey anyways, but we should just look at it.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Wells.
Yep.
Any questions for finance? Not seeing any. Okay, great job. Curriculum and data trends, Mr. Lipset.
Yes, we met on
The 22nd.
The 22nd. Didn't include that. September 22nd in this room at 3 o'clock p.m. In attendance were myself, Mr. Kissel, Dr. Wells, Ms. Young, Dr. Baldessari, Ms. Patrici, and Ms. Paige Crowley and Ms. Elizabeth Connolly, our two new curriculum coordinators. We got an update on summer programming, much of which we've already talked about today. We got a great walkthrough from Ms. Patrici on one of the project-based learning programs, which walked students through the planning and creation of a restaurant using mathematics skills that had been taught to them and which they put into practice, which was a really impressive look, pricing, creating menus, working out spacing, and the geometry of a restaurant layout. It even included a brief and wonderful presentation of students, a percussion program on kitchen equipment, which I'm sure that Ms. Patrici will send to you if you ask nicely, and it's worth a listen. So a lot of interdisciplinary work went into this as well. We talked a little bit about how student growth and assessment can be measured through this. We mentioned tracking some of the progress of the students who participated. We were also introduced to two new curriculum coordinators, Ms. Paige Crowley, no relation, Our new mathematics coordinator for grades 6 through 12, and Miss Elizabeth Connolly, who is our new social studies coordinator for grades 6 through 12. We talked about some of the new math curriculum that's been purchased from the ESSER III funding this summer. Desmos Math at the middle school level, a lot of interactive lessons and sort of, projecting student responses and using those to generate discussion. And Savas, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Savas Math at the high school level, which goes up to pre-calc. That also includes access to a coach from Savas who can help teachers implement some of the curriculum in the classroom. Ms. Connolly talked a little bit about some of the initiatives that the History and Social Studies Department is working on. And that was alluded to a little bit already by Mr. Baldessari, Dr. Baldessari. But we're launching a dual enrollment program with Middlesex Community College, in which students will be engaged in early childhood education and studies. And some of those students are now actually being hired at the SALT program, the Malcolm White. National History Honor Society is also being launched, as Ms. Frandudo alluded to in the student representative portion. And we talked a little bit about the Civics Showcase, which is part of the new History and Social Studies frameworks in Massachusetts. The Social Studies Department is going to be taking over Student Government Day from the English Department and wrapping it into what's sort of being projected as a 6-week capstone civics project that will happen at the end of junior year. And that will be the US 2 curriculum after the curriculum shift that's happening at the high school is complete. And we adjourned at 3:50 p.m.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lipset. Any questions for curriculum and data trends?
Real quick, I think just on that takeover of the government day, I think we did indicate, I don't know if it's been done or was going to be done, or reaching out to the family that's drawing a blank, and I had what is it?
The Luca family?
Yeah, the Luca family, just to make sure they're aware of the changes, and they could still be part of it if they want.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Kessel. That's a good point. And I'm sorry, it's called Take Over the Government Day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take over the,
I don't think I thought that I already tried that.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
Didn't work.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Personnel Subcommittee, Ms. Mulren?
I have not met, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Policy and Safety Subcommittee, Mr. Kissel?
We will be meeting October 4th at 9:45 a.m. I think it's a Zoom.
No, we're
Lots of agenda items coming.
Lots of agenda items, so we will go over lots, so the meeting after that will be jam-packed with policy information.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kissel.
That wasn't posted yet, right? I don't think that was posted yet.
It's big.
Maybe I'll come watch.
Okay, and I just want to remind the committee that our last vote on masks, we decided that we were going to review it sometime before the 29th, just putting it up there, of October. So just keep that on your radars. I'm sorry, Mr.
I'm just
Lipset?
confirming, we got DESI updated policy.
We did, yes. So maybe that could run through policy, because there is new DESI guidance. I don't know if
It's Zoom in the afternoon, right?
well, we won't talk about
1:45.
Okay. Resource and capital planning?
Yes, we met at 4:30 on September 22nd. Present were myself, Mr. Lipset, the superintendent, Mr. Alcanada, and Mr. Dunkley. The first item we talked about was air circulation. Mr. Dunkley explained the calculations for air circulation. Some of the buildings he's able to do that himself if the plans so allow him to do. There are some buildings that are so old he can't do that. So the subcommittee recommended that he review how much it would cost and provide, cost estimates to see whether it's happening. But the important thing to note is that we've bought all these filters systems, and Mr. Dunkley indicated that adding those filters to all the rooms will bring all our air circulation up to the DESI recommended levels. So that was good.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we thank, the administration for working with the city side to get that done.
Just as an aside, the air filters are in every classroom. They're here and they're out.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wells. And thank you, Dr. Crowley.
Okay. We also, there was some discussion about carbon dioxide monitoring. There was, you might have got an email, there was a parent at the Wyman back-to-school night who had monitored the CO2 levels in the classrooms and was upset about the level because there were only like 6 adults or something in the classroom. The level was extremely high. Mr. Dunkley explained it was an error on his part. He had turned off the ventilation system. I think that's common practice in the schools when nobody's there, and he just forgot that there was going to be a back-to-school night. So what he did is he went through all the classrooms, measured all the CO2 levels in all the classrooms, and gave us a list and noted the number of people and so forth. And all the classrooms were well within specifics. As he explained, you're like 400 parts per million over what the ambient air was, and all the classrooms were fine. And he's going to be working with his staff to review other schools and so forth like that. But again, the important thing is, I think with the filters, we're going to be getting this the recommended air circulation. So he was also able to answer that. That parent was also at the meeting, and she had a couple of other questions which he was able to answer for her.
Oh, good, okay.
And then finally, we just briefly discussed the feasibility study that we're going to be undertaking. As Mr. Dunkley indicated, their important thing there, and Mr. Alcanada, they wanted to get the schools open, and so they were working on that, and now they're going to turn their attention to the feasibility study. And they'll be presenting the committee with information before it goes to bid so that we can see what we're going to bid on. Okay, because as was mentioned at the last meeting, this is a very important program because we're going to base a lot of our decisions in the upcoming years based on that study. Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
And we're
Wells.
adjourned at 5 o'clock.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Dr. Wells? Yes, Ms. Cormier.
So regarding the CO2, Mr. Dunkley evaluated just the Harold Lyman or all the schools?
He just specifically did the Harold Wyman based on that concern, just to check that. But he's going to, as he said, he has the instrument and he's going to be going to schools. What he basically does is if there's a concern raised by either the teacher, staff, or the principal, he'll go and check it out normally. But he will try to do it in his rounds and so forth. But again, much like our human resource, he's one person, and I think the real issue is circulation and getting the filters in. So I think he's accomplished that, and so he will be going as need be and as time permits.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wells. Okay, Mr. Mulrennan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess to Dr. Wells' resource, I also, Mr. Dunkley was kind enough to CC us on an email that he sent out regarding the new filters in each room and how the staff have been instructed to operate them and turn them on and off per his instructions. So if that's not occurring, obviously it should be brought to Mr. Dunkley's attention. But there are instructions that these filters and air cleaners have been asked to follow by the staff members in the school building. So if any concerns come up, he'll be addressing those as well, I'm sure. It's just nice to see that they weren't just dropped off. You followed through with, how to operate them and what to do and how to address them. So they are, switching the air out or changing the air more rapidly, I guess he's trying to do. So.
And we do have custodians in all the buildings to help the teachers if there's an issue with one of them and so forth. So.
Cool.
All right, thank you. SSA, Student Service and Achievement, Ms.
We have not met.
Okay. Excuse me, correspondence. Yes, Mr. Kissel?
A couple of parents that were concerned, or actually residents, I'm not sure if they're parents, concerned about the parking along certain streets around the Harold Wyman. Now the Wyman Street,
Lowell.
yes, I'm sorry, Lowell Street has no parking signs, temporary ones, looks like put in by the police, I guess. But the concern is some of the off-streets, Pilgrim Road being one of them. So a handful of parents are picking up and they're concerned. So I didn't know how we were addressing that.
Yeah, so they're kind enough to call as well. And so we're trying to address it through the officer. I think Stokes heads up the
Yep.
the traffic division. And so we have today scheduled a meeting again to try to work with the police department to enforce, because I think what's happening is it's also prohibiting buses from being able to travel down certain streets.
exactly.
And so it's real, so we need to work with our partners on the police side to make sure that there's traffic flow and that people aren't parking on lawns. Everyone thinks it's just a quick thing, I'm just going to do this and drop off my child.
That's the complaint.
We are actively addressing it.
So just to full disclosure, that it's not a school issue, except that, it's brought to our attention and we bring it to the police and say, please try to rectify this.
Correct, yeah.
All right,
So we actually had a meeting, prior to school even opening, Alderman,
Demers?
Alderman Demers, Officer Stokes, and there was another police officer there. We met over at the Harold Wyman to try to think through some of them, and Miss Maloney came in the middle of the summer to try to address some of these things. And at this point, I think, again, we're pivoting to have some support from the Woburn police for traffic sort of enforcement.
And I think the other thing, we can just emphasize, it's so much safer if the parents just follow the route where they bring the kids in, drop and follow that route. That's been designed to promote safety, because the parents crossing the streets, things can happen. And so, I understand why parents do it and everything, but if more people can just follow the route that was designed to maximize safety, that would be the best.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. I too got that call on behalf of the school committee, and also the loudness of children during the day. And so I just want to emphasize that when we built the Harold Wyman, we asked a lot of grace from our neighbors, and they were very patient with us in building this fabulous new school. And so we always try to be good neighbors and respect the abutters that are, have this very large elementary school in their backyard. And so I just want to say that we respect when people reach out to us, and we try to respond as quickly and efficiently as possible. So thank you, Mr. Kissel, for bringing that to our attention.
No problem.
Any other correspondence?
Those same emails you all received, guys.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so we received 3 emails regarding the before-school issue, specifically at the Harold Wyman, from Melissa Jeffrey, Melissa Newell, and Christopher Tremonti, each indicating that is a very tough burden on their families for not having this before-school care at the Harold Wyman. And of course, members did address it tonight the best we can. And so I will ask a motion to enter those into the public record.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
And maybe,
Chairman,
yes,
can I make a suggestion? Maybe they bring it up with their PTO group, because maybe they can come up with the more people that are thinking about solutions, the better. We came up with some ideas that we just threw out here, but they may think of something that, we can work in combination with the school department that we haven't thought about. So,
yeah, I think that maybe we'll put it on, keep an eye on it on the agenda to get updates on it, because it is a burden on families that, we did so well at addressing last year with the supervised learning centers. And so we should just keep this on our radar, because it does impact people's quality of life. So, future events. Okay. It's all right.
if I only knew the future.
I know that National Honor Society was mentioned, and I know that Ms. Fronduto did a fantastic job at laying out all the events coming up, so I know we all heard those. Mr. Kissel?
The parade is on, as people might know, and I get the emails for all the floats. I'm one of the recipients on the Lions Club that gets these floats, and I know a lot of the schools have put in for it, so I just want to kind of spread the word again. I'm not sure the exact deadline, but I'm sure it's still open for floats and participations, different bands and groups.
Cool, okay.
So I'll kind of keep that in the forefront of it. It is October 31st, Halloween, And it slightly abbreviated parade just for the sake of a lot of the bands are busy, kind of catching up from last year. But we are getting UNH, but I actually don't think Woburn High is going to be participating. They're in some other program that day because they didn't get to do it last year, and it makes more sense. So yeah, hopefully you can attend and enjoy.
Thanks, Mr. Kissel. Any future,
Pilgrim Road.
we've all been invited to the Halloween parade, which is a public event.
Cordially invited by Mr. Kissel.
Formal invitation.
What I mean by participate is, we hope you can throw some dollars in the blankets. That's what I mean.
Oh, there we go.
That's really what I'm asking for.
Well, I'm doing the same thing.
All right,
Bob, somebody out with his own blanket.
Ms. Cormier,
Yes, for future agenda items, I was wondering if our next
this
meeting...
is a future events.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were saying future agenda.
I probably did, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Actually, we don't have executive session, so future agenda items, Ms. Cormier.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
So our next meeting being, I think it's the 12th of October. It's been now a month into school. I was wondering if we can get a report on any metrics regarding the test to stay, any quarantines, isolations, obviously no identifying information, but to see where we're at as far as any spread and any cases in the school. And also, I was curious if we can get any information. I know I had emailed you about this before, what we're doing for those students, if they are in isolation or in quarantine, what they're able to, is it just a packet that they take home? And is there anything that we're thinking about for future use if there is a larger scale that we need to be concerned about?
Yeah.
Whether it's like checking in with teachers and things like that.
You want me to answer some of that right now?
If you have it, I will take it, but I'm not requesting an answer.
What, the quick version is, we're not seeing any spreading, because I think that was one of the questions that you just kind of asked. We do have, a handful of kids, and right now, just kids positive. Again, spread out throughout the district, usually because of household contact, which is what we saw last year. And if at the elementary level, work is being sent home, kind of like the traditional, if you had the chicken pox.
Right.
But in addition to that, the choice boards are available that have been created because through last year. So not only do you get the work, but also access to digital learning. And
Those
then
elementary school students have a Chromebook that they take with them, or they can take?
Elementary, if they need one, that will provide that to them.
Gotcha.
And then grades 6 to 12, the expectation is teachers have Google Classroom, and it's updated daily. And 6-12, the students do have a Chromebook, and so they have access to the curriculum that way. So that's where we are with it right now. And beyond that, it would require a larger conversation
Yes.
with
WTA and... And any information on test and stay, how that's going, if we have much for consent?
So I don't know, last meeting, I think Mr. Alcanato said it was like 24% of folks had signed up. But that being said, I know that during back-to-school nights, the principals were really smart about it and had it available. So I don't know what that percent is as we sit here tonight. So it is an active program, and like Bob can speak to, but we haven't had many situations where we've
Needed to
needed
implement
to
it.
actually
Gotcha.
use it.
Okay,
So.
great. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Wells?
Yeah, it was mentioned about the ALICE training that's going to be ongoing. I think I've read recently that there's thoughts about the ALICE training and whether, it's from the trauma, it's more trauma-inducing than effectiveness. So I wonder if we could just have a review of that and what the current status is of it, and, should we be thinking of moving beyond or something else at some point? Then could we start getting some enrollment numbers and see how we're doing, because we want to match them up with our survey that we got, a couple of years ago, predicting our enrollments, and so we can see how that's going. Could we get an update on the MCAS and learning loss?
So that's, I was just going to say that that's for the next meeting.
Okay, great.
A pretty large, comprehensive
Yep.
presentation on MCAS and what the district is doing to respond to MCAS
Right.
scores, so
Okay.
thank you, Dr. Wells.
And then, I would think we're going to do the mask thing maybe next meeting or the next, but it seemed to me that the state guidance was a little different than what we had been talking about, in the sense that if the schools opt for, getting the mask off at 80%, it's only those vaccinated. So I think that was a little different than what we were talking about when we were initially discussing it. And so, it brings up all these questions about enforcement of the other, whatever percentage are, and, how does, includes, how do people feel about, having some people wearing masks and others not, and so forth. So, if we could get some information from the probably be best to have the high school principal here, if we're gonna talk about it, whether the next meeting or the meeting after, just so if there's concerns that she can provide information.
Thank you, Dr. Wells.
So
Okay.
just along that line, if I could just.
Yeah.
Of course, Dr.
So we're going to
Crowley.
have a vaccine clinic set up, been working on it with the Board of Health. I think it's next Thursday, the 7th, at the high school. And right now, I've been working also with Ms. Callahan, because she is really trying to encourage folks to get vaccinated. If we were to have, we're not at 80% at the high school right now, is really what I want to get telling people.
Right.
And so it would be helpful probably to have her here, but also to have numbers to listen to. And as of right now, I shared the DESE guidance, that they're looking for possibilities, but if 80% is the marker, we have to talk through that.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Sorry, one quick thing.
Of course, Mr. Lipson, I'm sorry, I
In
didn't see
addition to
you.
Dr. Wells' discussion of enrollment numbers, could we also get a class size update by classroom?
Of course.
Madam Chairman, also regarding the October 12th meeting, is the time set on that? Did we determine the start time? I know we started at 7 this evening, so I want to make sure everybody has the same start time.
I have 7.
All right.
Only
Regular
Colleen and I
scheduled
wanted at
meetings.
7:30.
I know.
John and I are still on board for 7:30 if people want to do it, but we
like
understand that currently we are at 7 on a regular scheduled meeting.
I'm
It'd be
sorry.
9:15 right now.
Yeah.
Members, I need to move the October 12th meeting.
Oh, you need to move it anyways?
I need to move it.
Okay.
I'm giving a presentation.
You can give it to us.
Okay, go with the government?
Well, no, okay.
Do you want to do the 13th?
If we could,
Let me look at my
Yes.
expensive calendar.
I mean, the
Yeah.
Tuesday after a day off may not be,
Yeah.
It's basically a
the
Monday.
best
and Pat
time
doesn't
for a
like
meeting
those.
anyway, so is the 13th good for everybody?
That's good.
Works for me.
Works for me.
7
Thank
o'clock,
you.
right?
Yeah, I'm going to switch things around. I'll do it.
7.
Hey, Sherman?
He's a short time,
I
and
was
he can do
gonna say,
anything.
he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's-
He can do anything.
What are they
he
doing?
He has
wants.
like 7 more days of work.
Come on.
Okay, we'll
all
put it
right.
on for the 13th. And
I think we
if
changed that because of me.
if you need to
School 7
change,
p.m.
let me know. Okay. So do I have a motion to change our next meeting to the 13th?
Oh,
Yes, motion to
Motion
change from the 12th to the 13th of
Thank
October.
you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? This meeting's adjourned.
So, September, October.